So for today's practice, we will be using a blanket as well as 2 blocks. Most of the shapes you can modify if you don't have these props available, or use alternative items as props if you don't have a blanket accessible, maybe a towel you can roll up. We'll begin with that blanket or towel and to make a nice firm roll. And then you're going to lie down over that roll face down, bringing this blanket into the space of the soft belly. So rather than setting your hip bones on it, which you might do at sometimes, you really want it to be right below the navel, in between the ribs and the hips. And it's going to put a little bit of pressure on your abdomen. So this is a practice that you don't want to do immediately after eating. If you have eaten fairly recently, you could slide it back under the hips to do a little bit of a more gentle version, or just lie flat down on your stomach with no blanket at all. So set yourself up so that you can place that blanket roll right underneath the soft belly. Take a moment coming onto your elbows and tucking your toes under to create a sense of length and space between your lower ribs and your upper hips. Once you feel that you're really nicely, firmly laying down over the blanket in a balanced way, untuck your toes, bring your elbows wide, rest your forehead down on the back of your hands. So as you come down into that shape, you can just keep your head resting down. Just check in and see how sensitive your abdomen is feeling with the pressure of the blanket underneath it. And you can adjust as you need, making a smaller roll or making a thicker roll if you don't really feel anything at all. You will feel a slight bit of pressure, but you shouldn't feel really super uncomfortable or nauseous. And it should just feel like a little bit of a gentle massage on your belly as you take each breath. And as you continue to lay here, count out 10 more slow, steady breaths. As you finish your 10th exhale, lift your head slowly. Start to take your upper body over towards the right side of the mat. Keep your lower body as it is. Bend your right elbow, extend your left arm straight, rest your forehead on the back of your right arm, and then once again count 10 slow, steady breaths. As you finish your 10th breath, come back to center and bring yourself through to the other side. Bend your left arm, extend your right arm, rest your head. 10 breaths. out. Start to bring yourself back to center. Bring your palms to the floor and press yourself up into a tabletop, nice and slow. Set your blanket to the side for now. Take a few rounds of cat-cow, rounding your spine. Take a breath in. And then lengthening your spine, lift your gaze as you exhale. Just moving slowly between those shapes. So setting up for the next shape, you'll take your 2 blocks, set them side by side, and then take your blanket, unroll it, keep it folded, and place that over the stack of blocks. Now this shape you might recognize, Sphinx pose. It can be done without the props. I just like it because it creates a little bit of space in the mid-back. So if you don't have them, just do it without. So you'll come forward, set your lower ribs down on the stack of blocks, kind of like you were placing them on a shelf. Bring your forearms down to the floor with your elbows just in front of the blocks. And then tuck your toes under, reach one heel back and the other to lengthen the front of your hips. Untuck your toes, let your hips soften down to the floor. Start to take your breath into your mid-back. And with each exhale, feel for softening the hips a little bit more. And you might find the intensity of this variation to be enough for you today. Or you can take your elbows up onto the blocks, bring your hands together so you create a triangle in your lower arms. Press your palms into each other, and then start to draw your heart forward through the frame of your arms. Maybe lifting your gaze slightly. Release any sense of clenching in your glutes, in your hamstrings. It may engage, but don't try and over-engage them. You can remain here, or maybe bend the knees. Take your feet to lift up towards the ceiling, and keep your hips softening down. So if you find this shape and you feel a lot of pressure in the low back, just come out of it, bring your feet back to the floor. Slowly release your feet down if you've lifted them. If your elbows are on top of the block, lower them back down to the floor for a moment so you can ease out of the shape. And then take your hands back onto your stack of blocks. And come into tabletop. Take that top blanket, excuse me, take that blanket, roll it. Set it behind your seat, under your seat rather. Bring your knees wide and your big toes together. And then you'll take your blocks, place them underneath your palms so you can stretch your arms all the way forward. You have to reach your seat back towards your heels so you lengthen your lower back, and then rest your forehead down. Lift your torso just enough that you can take your left arm and slide it underneath your right shoulder. So you start to come into a gentle twist of the upper body. You can keep your right hand on your block, or you can take your block and rest it underneath your head. Bend your left elbow just in front of your right knee, make a fist with your left hand, and then stack your right palm on top. And if this feels like it's too deep of a turn, just come back to that first, more gentle version. So we're taking each shape more or less at a 10 count, and it just gives us a nice measurement so that we know how long we're going to be there, and we can stick with it until the end. You can always adjust your count to suit you and the amount of time that you have. Unwind as you're ready. You can keep that block underneath the forehead. Rest straight down. And then lifting your torso enough to take the right arm now underneath your left shoulder. You can bring your right cheek, your right temple down onto the block, either extending the left arm or finding that same twist. Make a fist with your right hand and stack your left hand on top. Completing your 10 breaths, come back to center, rest your forehead down. And as you finish 10 breaths here, start to bring yourself back up to sit. So come up off of your seat now. You can set your blanket to the side for a moment. Take your 2 blocks again. This time, turn them onto the middle height, side by side. And then unroll your blanket, place it over the stack of blocks. So 2 variations that you can take here, and if you feel like this is not sturdy enough for you, you can always set the blocks flat again for a little bit more stability. You'll either take your elbows down so that they're shoulder width apart, bring your hands together, walk your knees back, and let your head start to relax down. Remaining there, or taking a little bit of a deeper shoulder opening variation in what we call an eagle arm. So we'll take the right arm on top of the left arm wraps around the right. You'll bring yourself forward so that you can catch your elbows onto the blocks. And then from there, walk your knees back. Rest your chin over your right shoulder and close your eyes. And if you took that first variation, you can stay as you are. If you took the eagle wrap, come back so that you can unwind, switch the arms, so your left arm is on top. Bring yourself forward to place your arms down. And then wiggle your knees and hips back. Take your chin over your left shoulder. And then everyone slowly coming out of that shape. Come to sit back for a minute and roll your shoulders back. You can set your props out of the way for now. Come just into a tabletop position. And then step your right foot forward between your hands. Bend your knee deeply so that your knee lands right in line over your heel. Rest your hands down on the floor or place blocks over your hands. Try and keep the connection of your ribs to your thighs. You can take one of those blocks here if you tend to sink a little deeper in the hips, wedge it just in front of your back thigh. And then stretch your fingertips out. Plug your right knee into the pit of your right arm. Take your gaze forward. And then keep your right hand resting down to the floor. Take an open twist. Extend your left arm up. Release your left hand down, set it off of the edge of your mat. Walk your right foot out to the side, turn your toes out about 45 degrees, and then bring your right hand inside of your right knee. And you can keep that block there near the back thigh. Extend your right arm straight, take your head back. And then slowly bring yourself back to a long alignment from your crown to your tail. You can keep that block, or you can start to sink yourself a little bit deeper, placing a block underneath your forearms, or maybe placing your forearms all the way to the ground and bringing the block under your head. If you feel a lot of pressure here in your back knee, try and press down more through the top of your back foot. And then if you want to use the blanket, rather than placing it unfolded right under the kneecap, roll it and place it under the thigh above the knee. So your foot is still grounded and there's no pressure at all on the knee. Come back onto your hands whenever you're ready. Tuck your back toes under to lift your back knee off of the ground. Get a little light through your hips here. You're gonna pop your back foot forward. You can sit on a block if you'd like. Come down into a deep squat. Your elbows will come inside of your knees, hands together in front of your heart. If you don't need the block, you can set it to the side. Let your hips drop a little bit lower, and then close your eyes. Just 5 breaths here. And then releasing your left fingertips to the floor, down at an angle from your left shoulder. Stretch your right arm up. Press your arm out into your knee to turn you a little more. Bring your right arm inside of your right knee, fingertips to the floor. Take your left arm up. And then release your hands and stretch your fingertips forward. And drop the weight of your head. Draw your knees a little wider. Start to take your gaze out again. Bring your feet so that they're parallel. And then extend your legs just enough to come into a hang. Try and make this connection of your ribs to your thighs. You can support yourself here if you'd like by placing a stack of blocks under your head, or you may just need one. Bring your fingertips out wide away from your shoulders. You can stay here or flip the back of the hands down, palms facing up. And keep the connection of your ribs to your thighs to lift your seat a little higher. So once again, 10 breaths. And when you reach the count of 10, bring your hands back to the floor, lift your torso, and step your right leg back. If you're using the blanket, you can use it underneath the thigh, otherwise moving it off to the side, release the knee down. Plant your hands to the floor or blocks as you need. And as you count your breath, or just stay present to your breath, can you also really stay present to the varying sensations in your body? So you don't just check out and get lost in your mind. Notice where you feel sensation, what kind of sensation you feel. Taking your fingertips out further, supporting yourself with that block in front of the thigh if you choose. I find it really nice. It gives you a little place of feedback, something to move into. So you're actively moving your right thigh forward into the block. And then keep that action of your right thigh moving forward into the block as you take the right arm up to twist. Press your left knee out into your left shoulder. Bring your right fingertips down to the floor off of the side of the mat. Bring your left foot a little wider, then turn your toes out. Press your left hand into your inner knee, extending the arm straight, take the head back. And then bring your torso back in line with your hips. You can keep the block, you can place the blanket rolled in front of the knee rather than underneath it. Drop down onto your forearms. Support your elbows or your head as you need. Slowly bring your hands back to your shoulders. Lift your back knee off the ground. Once again, step forward. Let your hips soften down, and this time you're going to bring yourself down to sit. Set your blanket to the side. Grab 1 to 2 blocks. Come onto your back. Bend your knees. Keeping your feet flat to the floor, you'll lift your hips and stack your block or blocks at the highest height that you can while still feeling really stable and comfortable. I like to do the 2 flat and wide blocks, but you could take 1 block up to a higher height if that serves you best. Try and get the front of the hips to fully open so there isn't this sort of divot right there in the pelvis. Relax your arms down, turn your palms to face up. Close your eyes if that's comfortable. nice to have these quiet moments sometimes just to be with yourself and be with your breath. You may not get that much quiet time in the day, so enjoy it. Start to feel your feet on the ground again. Lift your hips enough just to lower the height of the block, so I just take it down to one block, flat and wide. And then keep your right knee bent. Take your left leg and extend it long on the mat. And let your toes relax. Extend your arms alongside your head. Reach your fingertips back. And you might find that this feels like it's enough of a sense of stretch and release. To take that further and deeper, you'll hold on to your left wrist with your right hand and start to move your left side body into a crescent or banana shape. The left foot will slide all the way down to the right bottom corner of the mat. And then you'll tug on your left arm, reaching your upper body over towards the top right corner of the mat. Guide your breath towards your left lung. Relax the back of your neck. And then to go one step further, you can take your right foot, cross it over the left, place it back down on the mat. Keeping your hips as stable and balanced on the block as you can. And if you cross your right foot over, uncross it, place it back down. Slowly realign your upper body. Slide your left leg back into a neutral position, bending the knee, and place your left foot down. Relax the clasp of your hands. And then stretch your right leg down the mat. Keep your left knee bent. Take your right wrist with your left hand this time, first lengthening to the side of the body. And choosing how far you want to take that opening. Right foot can come towards that bottom left corner of the mat. Right arm reaching up and over towards the top left corner. Crossing the left foot over the right thigh if you choose. 10 breaths into your right lung. So to bring yourself back into a neutral position, I'm crossing the leg, re-bending the right knee. Relax your arms, place your feet down. And then press it through your feet. Bring your arms back down alongside your hips so you can move that block off to the side and out of the way. Take your feet wide and rest your knees together. And then slowly, just to let your knees drop from side to side. Move your head in the opposite direction. Props are in the way, slide them off to the side. Rock your legs one more time in each direction, right to left. And then rest the back of your head, since your feet down. Draw your knees into your chest. Reach your arms out to the side, scoop your knees in, shift your hips just a couple inches over to the left. Bring your knees to curl up towards your right elbow. Turn your gaze over your left shoulder. And you can use your props in a lot of different ways here to support this twist. If you start to feel a lot of pressure on the low back, you can take that roll blanket, place it between the knees to ease the pressure in the sacrum. You could place a block all the way underneath the knees if the legs don't quite come to the ground. If you feel that your shoulder is lifting off the ground, you can take that rolled blanket, rest it underneath the shoulder, and lie back. On your next breath out, bring your knees back in, set your feet to the ground, shift your hips back over to the other side as you curl your knees into your chest, and then take your knees over towards your left elbow, gazing over your right arm. Setting your props up in any way you need to support this turn. It might feel very different on this side of the body than it did in the other direction. We generally twist a lot easier one way than we do the other. And then slowly come back to center. Place your feet down so that you can shift your hips back into neutral alignment with your ribs. Hug your knees to your body. Then begin to rock up and down the length of your spine. So bring yourself up to sit. You're going to take your 2 blocks now. We'll set up for a more restorative holding shape. Place one block on the middle height. Start with your other block tall, and you can always adjust and lower it if you want a deeper back bend. You'll unfold your blanket and then make a longer roll. The blanket will support the legs so they can rest without having to really grip and hold themselves up. You'll place the soles of your feet together in a butterfly bound ankle shape with the leg. Bring the rolled blanket just over the tops of the ankles. Lift your knees enough that you can tuck it around the outer ankles, outer shins. And if you can't quite get it around, unfold your blanket one more time and re-roll it. Reach back so that you can feel that first block. Just really slowly lay yourself back, setting it down around your mid-ribs. Bottom tip of the shoulder blades on the block, and then place the other one underneath your head. Bringing the back of the hands to the ground, check in with yourself and just see the comfort level here. You might feel a little bit of pressure in your back, but it shouldn't feel uncomfortable. You can always place a towel or wash rag over it to soften the edges. If you want a deeper back bend, you can take the block under the head, turn it so it's on the middle height, and then long, so you want sort of an upside down, a T shape with the 2 blocks. Place your head on the lower half, and then you can take opposite elbows and rest your forearms on the upper half. Eyes open or closed is up to your comfort. Counting your breaths, coming and going slow and steady. Take 25 breaths here. Somewhere around mid-cow, if you have your arms crossed, switch the cross of the other forearm is on top. If your arms are resting on the floor, just stay as you are. If you had your arms crossed, start to release them. Take your last breaths here. Slide your hands down to your outer legs and keep your leg muscles really nice and relaxed so that they don't grip as you start to come out of this shape. Slowly press your knees back together. Bring your feet flat to the floor. Use the back of your legs to curl your chin into your chest. You can take your hands down if you need and slowly bring yourself back up to sit. Set your blocks off of the mat for a moment. You'll come to sit now. You can sit on a folded blanket if you'd like. I quite like to lift the hips. This helps your hips to release a little bit more, especially if you have a tendency to sit back in your tail. So get your hips a little bit higher than your knees. You'll take your right knee bent and extend your left leg out to the side. Now take one of those blocks, set it just inside of your left thigh. Rest your left forearm down on your leg. Drop your left ear to your shoulder. Take your right arm, sweep it around a few times, just a really gentle circle, just exploring your range of motion. And then circle the other way. If your head feels really heavy here, you can bend at the elbow, place your head into the palm. And you'll take your right hand to your lower back, or you might reach around and find your inner left thigh. Find a little gentle turn, twisting your heart up towards the ceiling. Maybe letting the head go again to get a deeper stretch in the neck. You might be able to lower that block to go a little bit further. And take your arm and extend it all the way overhead. Turn your face down over your extended leg. Keep your spine really nice and long so you're not rounding forward. And then bring yourself up to sit. Just switch the bend of the knee rather. Take your right leg out, bend your left knee. Place your block inside of your right thigh. Drop your right forearm down. Relax your right ear to your shoulder. Take a few breaths there. Extend your arms, start to circle it around. And supporting your head if you'd like that little bit of extra hold. Circle the other way. And then bring your hand to your low back. Maybe it reaches around for the inner right thigh. And let your head go. Drop your chin towards your shoulder. Turn your heart up towards the ceiling as you turn your chin down. Unwind your arms, stretch it alongside your head. Open up your left lung. And then turn your face down over your extended leg. Frame the leg with your hands. Lift your gaze. Stretch your heart towards your toes. Slowly bring yourself to sit upright. Extend both legs now. I'm just going to turn sideways on the mat again. Bend your knees a little bit. Rest your ribs down on your thighs. Drop your arms into your kneecaps. Take a hold of your feet. And start to slide the both of your feet back as you slide your feet forward. And you can take a block or a stack of blocks, as many as you need, to rest your forehead down on. If you feel a lot of pressure at the knees, you could take another blanket or some more blocks underneath the knees. Sitting upright. And making this shape work for you. Place your hands back on the floor. Start to lift your gaze, lift the back of your head, lift your chest. Come to sit upright again. Then we'll make our way back onto our backs. So shift off of that blanket. This is just a really nice support for your legs. You could do this with a bolster. You could also throw your legs over a sofa or a chair to take the legs up. Legs up the wall is a nice way to end as well. But for now, for this version, we'll just take that same stack blocks with the blanket folded on top. Lie down, so that stack will more or less go underneath the back of the knees. But we'll come onto our back and hug the knees into chest first. Just rock gently from side to side. Place your hands on your kneecaps. Extend your arms so that your knees float. Your feet might rest on the block, that's fine. And then start to press your hands down to the top of the knees until you feel a little sense of heaviness at the back of the hips, grounding your pelvis into the floor. Then make circles with the knees. Circle in the other direction. Take your arms and legs up into the air. Put a little bit of a bend in your knees as well as your elbows, your wrists, your ankles. So just circle the wrists and the ankles. You imagine kind of the position of a dead bug laying on the ground. And then start to shake it out. Kick your legs, kick your arms as fast and vigorously as it feels good for you to release a little bit of extra energy. Then reach up to your hands, reach up to your feet, take a deep breath in. And as you exhale, start to draw the knees back in. Slowly stretch your legs down over your props or just straight onto the ground. Have your heels resting on the floor, toes turned out. And then relax the back of your hands to the floor, close your eyes. Take as long in this resting shape as you have time for and the need for. You can finish here. You can bring yourself up to sit, take a few moments sitting tall in quiet meditation, focusing on your